So essentially what we're doing is we're talking about God. It's a topic that nowadays, maybe you can't even talk about God. But we don't feel embarrassed to talk about God because the entire of existence is moving to a place where that will be the only conversation. The prophet says, Yemali ha'aretz es deis Hashem, k'mayim aliyah mechasem. I'll translate if that sounded Chinese to you. That the entire of humanity and the wisdom, the knowledge, the connection to God will be clear to everybody like water covers the sea. If I take you to the ocean and I say, what do you see out there? And you're like, what's the question? It's pretty obvious. All I see is water. It's so clear. God's consciousness, meaning our awareness of God, will be such that when you look out into the world, and that means every facet of the world. Somebody asked me, when Mashiach comes, will there still be internet? I said, obviously. What do you think every single website will be dedicated to? You get it. I'm sure God.com is going to be one of the top ones. But whatever the website name is, there's going to be one topic. Could you guess? You got it. God, right? It's going to be anything else? No. You're thinking that's like, what will that look like? I'll tell you the truth. It will look like Torah. It will look like when you come to yeshiva and you start learning Torah, like, isn't it just one book? Then you realize that the Torah has so many facets, has so many dimensions, has so much depth to it. That's what the times of Mashiach will look like, and that's what we'll be focusing our entire life on. All the colors of Torah, all the relationships. We're getting close to receiving the Torah, and it says that Shavuos, the day of receiving the Torah, is compared to a wedding. Did you ever hear that before? If you see guys around the yeshiva saying, oh, I hope you have a good wedding, it should be a wonderful wedding canopy, you're like, I don't know what you're talking about, but I wasn't planning to get married anytime soon. Like, oh, it's going to be a great wedding, mazel tov, stuff like that. So, what do they mean? They mean that when we received the Torah at Mount Sinai, we got married to God. Did you know that? We got married to God. The Torah was the Ksuba. In another rendition of it, we got married to the Torah, and Hashem is our Shver. It's the father-in-law. Yeah. Either way, it's a wedding. And a wedding is all about a relationship. It's all about a very deep relationship that's built on ne'emanis, built on really being faithful to the other. And the entire of that relationship is so nuanced, is so deep. And if you want to get into this ultimate relationship, which is going to be the entire theme of when Mashiach comes, it's all found in the Torah. Okay, that's what we're learning right now in Reb Nachman. How to find God everywhere. You guys excited? That's all there is to do. Find God everywhere. You mean, when I miss the bus, yeah, God's there too. And when I get up and I put on my shoes, yep, also there. And what about, give me another situation that happened to you today?
You showed late to class.
Sure, oh, God's there also. Okay, we'll have to talk about that one. What do you mean? I went late to class, which is about God, so how was God there when I was not going to class? Okay, we'll have to talk about that. What else happened to you guys today?
I saw a little bit of crushed falafel on the pavement.
There was crushed falafel on the pavement. So God was there too. And what's happened?
This morning they're davening a bird at the window.
Oh, vey. That's not good. But God was there too. We'll have to talk about that. And we can't always see that. That's what Reb Nachman said. When you can't always see the God point in everything, the God point in everything, who remembers, is represented by which letter? This is a little bit more esoteric. Yes?
The nun.
Oh, but okay, the nuns, yes. The ches, okay? Ches. Ches, how do you spell the letter ches? Anybody know? Ches, yud, and a sav, or tav, which is the same, if you know, Hebrew letters are alive. I don't mean you look at a letter on the page and all of a sudden it's going to start wiggling and moving. I mean, the idea of the letter represents something. When you say those letters, that's why a lot of meditations revolve around saying Hebrew letters. That's not for now, that's in the second year program here of saying Hebrew letters and going into the meditation of an Aleph or a Beis. What those letters mean? A Ches is the 8th letter and it means Chias, means life, right? Chias, alive. It also is the first letter of Chochmah. So we said the God point in everything is the Ches, right? That letter Ches. And we said the Ches is the Chochmah, is the Seichel Shebechol Davar, is Yaakov Avinu. For those that have been with us, you'll understand this terminology we're using. Is Yaakov. And Yaakov, did he take the birthright? He got, well, first of all, was he rightfully his? Meshulam? Yes?
No.
Machlokes. Rabbis, fight it out.
Yes, it was.
Why was it his?
Because
Remember we said what Rashi said? You have a tube, and you put,
Here's the first one conceived.
is that a good cylinder?
Yeah.
And you put 2 pebbles that fit exactly into the tube.
Mm.
So which of the pebbles comes out first? Which means which one was the firstborn? The second one. So Yaakov really was the true firstborn. But Esav came out first into the world. So he was the firstborn in this world, but in the spiritual world of truth, Yaakov was the firstborn. But Yaakov knew that he had to get it back. Who else knew that he had to get it back? It's not just Bible stories. This is literally happening inside of you right now. Rivka. You know, Rivka is a code word. And it's true, it is a woman. She was one of the matriarchs. Rivka is a code word for something called the Shekhinah, the godly presence inside of you. So the godly presence inside of you knew that the point inside of you called Yaakov, which is your Yetzer Tov, which is your good inclination, which is the point that sees only the good in everything, that godly presence inside of you is telling you that you need to reclaim and help us re-identify. And who's that power that wants to push us away from seeing that God consciousness in everything? Esav. What happened to Esav? The Yivez Esav is Sabachayr. What did he do about the firstborn? He spurned it. He pushed it away. He just said, give me the red stuff. Just put it down my throat. What does Esav mean in my life? We said Esav means, and Reb Nachman brought us the verse, Lo yachpaitz ksil b'tvuna. The fool doesn't really want to understand the truth of life. Rather, what does he want? Bisgalas libay. And we explain that means he just wants whatever his heart tells him right now. If you try to explain to the fool, maybe there's a creator. And it should actually make us very sad that the majority of humanity does not know that they were created. You know what they think? They think that they're long, illustrious descendants from the apes. And they don't know not only that they were created, there's a creator, but that they're actually being created right now. That's more hardcore monotheism. That every single second they're being created. So Esav is that voice inside me. Let's make this very much down to earth for us, which is God is speaking to us every single moment. And Esav says, no, he's not. That was a coincidence. That there had no purpose behind that thing. That's called Esav. And what did we say is the antithesis of Esav? Because Esav represents the Malchus of the kingdom of evil. We said the kingdom of holiness, which is the Nun, the letter Nun. Nun. And when I have a Ches and a Nun, I've explained this before. What does that spell? Ches Nun? Chen, that's the Chen, that's the grace. And we said Noach was Matzah Chen. And we explained that this was all a response that somebody came to Reb Nachman and says, Rebbe, I don't know why my prayers are not being answered. And he says, because you don't have Chen. And really he meant is that you're not learning Torah in the right way. Let me explain that Torah brings a person Chen. So what do I do when I feel that Esav is running my life? And he's making me just do whatever I feel right now. By the way, most of the world just tells you, do whatever you feel right now. don't really investigate into things too much. Just do whatever you feel right now. So let's look inside for a few moments to see these squiggly letters, which stop looking so squiggly. We're at the point, we said there's a Yetzer Tov and a Yetzer Hara. In this edition, it's the second column. The first paragraph begins, V'zebech, and it's Yetzer Tov v'Yetzer Hara. And midway down, it says, Kamoisha Amar Rabbi Sein Zechron Livracha. Like it says a Gemara in Brachas. And if you don't exactly have the place, it's okay, Hashem loves you. Le'olam yargiz adam Yetzer Tov al Yetzer Hara. A person always has to fight to overcome his Yetzer Hara, the Esav inside of him. And when I can fight against my Yetzer Hara, I strengthen my good side. Because inside of me there's two kings. And they're vying to take over you. Did you know that? There's the Shulam's like, yeah, talk about it every day. Every morning when I wake up, there's one king that says, get out of bed, bro. You got a big day ahead of you. Make the most of life. And the other one's like, snooze.
5 more minutes.
Again, 5 more minutes.
Yeah.
And then what happens? It's already 10:30 in the morning. And then it's the audience. The whole morning's a write-off.
It'd be silly to think it's one battle. It's like, get out of bed 5 more minutes. And then you're out of bed, it's like, no, sit on your bed and recollect yesterday's.
I love that one. You ask your friend, could you wake me up in the morning? He's like, yeah, bro, I got it. He's like, okay, get up. Okay, you up? He's like sitting in the bed. You up? I'm up. He leaves. Okay, I'm leaving. You up? I'm up. Never let a guy leave. Never you leave until he's standing up. That's a rule. Everybody knows that. Michelle was like, yes, correct. You have to be standing out of bed. Otherwise, it's not called that you got your friend up. Sitting up is basically like lying down with your eyes closed.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I'm up, bro. I'm up. Good, I'm good.
Andrew's my roommate. He knows very well.
So you were seeing that this is not a far concept. There are these two voices inside of me. We have a technology to understand what they're doing. It's called a Torah, and the technology is speaking to us through the archetypes of the Torah, giving you a code of what's happening inside of you, and that code is called Yaakov and Esav. And the Torah says you should always make sure to fight, to really do anything you can to not give Esav the upper hand. Now look what the Gemara says. We're now in the oral tradition teaching us what this all means. When you learn Torah, you give more strength to the good side. Torah has a way of giving you powerful advantage. A person should always do anything possible to allow his good inclination to fight against his evil inclination. If the bad inclination leaves, mutav. Good. Imlav. What if it doesn't work? A person wants to go look at something that would not be appropriate. So he tells Esav, I'm not listening to you. I know that God doesn't want me to do that right now. Maybe I don't. So what happens if he's not able to overcome that? Says the Gemara, if it doesn't work, Yasak bat Torah. Jump into the Beis Medrash. It's a story that Rabbi Emzi and I remember of one of our dear friends running to the Beis Medrash. Mamish. Anything possible to run to the Beis Medrash. I'll say it, nobody knows, I'm not using any names. There was a very holy Jew, and he was in the dorms, and there was something he didn't want to be doing, and all of a sudden he heard a scream, and out of the bathroom he's running with, I don't know if it was a towel, maybe it was a robe, something, whatever, running through the rova, literally, like I don't know what there was, maybe just like a sweatshirt and sweatpants or something, bare, like running to the Eish HaTorah Beis Medrash. Like running through the running to the Beis Medrash. And later we inquired, like, what happened? What was that all about? He said, I was almost overcome by a temptation that I knew I did not want to do. And at that moment, I remembered the Gemara. And it said, if you're able to overcome it, good. If not, you run to the Beis Medrash. So at that moment, I literally busted the door down of the bathroom. I ran, put something on, and just ran to the Beis Medrash. I did what the Gemara said. This person now is a mega tzaddik. Yes, exactly. Because of those moments of heroism, I'm saying I do not want to fall to my lower temptations. I don't want that kingdom of evil to pull me into its clutches. I want to rule over myself with the kingdom of holiness. Because then you're a real master. Like it says in Pirkei Avos, Ezehu Gibor, who is the truly mighty one? The guy who could conquer cities? The guy who's got big biceps? HaKoivesh es Yitzrei, the one who could conquer his evil inclination. He could be a puny little guy, but he feels like he wants to say evil speech. He says, oh, he's got the juiciest nugget of Lashon Hara. And if he says this Lashon Hara, he will get high fives. He'll be the man. He'll be the man. And he holds himself back. He is much more mighty than some musclehead guy who just runs his mouth. That musclehead guy is a nobody. He's got nothing. He's a puny weakling. Compared to the one that says, I will not succumb to my lower base inclination. Sometimes you hear people, a guy says, I don't want to smoke on Shabbos. I don't think, by the way, it's a good idea to smoke anytime. But a guy says, oh bro, you're such a slave to Shabbos. I'm a free man. I can smoke. You can't smoke on Shabbos. So what's the response to that person? You're the slave. You can't not smoke on Shabbos. You become a slave to these death sticks. You can't not smoke on Shabbos. I can overcome that. I'm not into smoking. But I can overcome that and not smoke on Shabbos. That's a mighty human being. One more line. The famous quote, if that lowlife comes to find you. Who's the lowlife talking about, my friends? The evil king, he's called a lowlife. He might have a Ferrari and Bugatti and 12 cars in the garage and a fancy palace and a private jet and some power suit on. But what does the Gemara call him? A lowlife. A lowlife. He's convincing you to go out to all sorts of clubs and parties and hang out with the girls. This lowlife comes to you, Mashchei lebeis hamedrash. What do you do with them? Take them to the Beis Medrash. Say, you want to learn some Torah? Come on, and at times, come on, let's learn about Ki ali de Torah noisen koich lamalchus de kedusha. When you learn Torah, you strengthen your good side. And couldn't we all use that nowadays? Strengthening the good part of us, which means our self-confidence, our happiness. The evil inclination and that evil kingdom is all about temporary pleasures and a lot of anxiety and depression. Who wants that? As mekabelas hamalchus shebechinas nun, and then the holy kingdom, which is the nun. For those that have been with us before, this more esoteric language will be clear to them. Chiyas min hachachma, he will get that life force from the chachma, because we explained that the nun is like a moon, and the moon shines and reflects the light of the sun, which is the chachma. Therefore, even if you can't find God in everything, but you have the moon, which is a female element. That's right. Males have to have a female element to them to reflect, and females also have a male element to them. We're talking about a healthy male-female balance. To reflect the light of the sun, which is the God point in everything, and the female element to reflect that and receive that. And the moon is more beautiful than the sun. That's why when you go on a date with a girl, better to go under the moonlight.
So she can't see what you really look like.
No, it's just more romantic, Meshulam. Come on, everyone knows that. The moonlight is more romantic. And candlelight's even more romantic. Not that you don't see the blemishes in the other person. It's just, everybody knows that. 12 noon, it's like, it's harsh. It's harsh, it's intense. The moonlight is romantic. And candlelight's even more romantic. We'll talk about that another time. And then what happens when the nun is shining and reflecting from the ches? Nischabe v'niskasha aches ve'anonasa or levonika or achama. And this is also talking about the Messianic era, when the moon herself will become bright like the sun. This is part of also the female power of the world getting stronger. That in the end of days, the female power will once again become strong like the sun. In a real way, not in a counterfeit way, in a real way. The kishazeh comes en noifel. And we know, and we're going to start with this point next time, we have a rule. The sages of the Gemara said to each other, they said, how do I know if Jerusalem is doing well? What did they say? Go see what's happening in Rome. Because if Rome is up, then Jerusalem is down. Rome, of course, means Esav. When the powers of Esav are strong, then as a negative correlation, the powers of Yaakov are down. But if the powers of Jacob are up, then I know that the powers of Rome, Esav, are down. Which means you don't need to look at both. If you see one, you can know the other. And therefore, if you're able to either raise up the power of Jacob, that will naturally reduce the power of the Yetzer Hara. Or if you could reduce the power of the Yetzer Hara, you will naturally raise up the power of Jacob. So you have two options in this. You can, one, go and hang around holy people that will pull up your Jacob inside of you, and that will naturally suppress the Esav. Or you could go straight on to Esav to suppress Esav, then it will naturally raise up the powers of Jacob. That last point is a bit technical. We're going to talk about that, what that means very practically to us to overcome the struggles of our life. Everyone should have a wonderful week. Yeshua Kol Tuv.